like to thank you all for joining us today. Housing and economic development are an integral part of the health and prosperity of our community, and it hinges on our addressing a healthy economy by addressing affordable housing and community development and economic development initiatives. Today, this event is being sponsored by the Low Income Housing Leadership Network, and that network was founded by the Health and Human Services Coordinating Council. It's made up of professionals and a variety of community stakeholders who focus their attention on creating affordable housing solutions. I'd like to thank our team here for helping to put this together. I'd like to thank the Low Income Housing Leadership Network itself. It's a great group of people. We welcome you as guests anytime you'd like to come and join us. I'd also like to thank the Health and Human Services Coordinating Council, Denise Grossbeck, Joe Baldwin, Karen White. They've always worked very hard to help us keep everything together. And also for my steering committee, the Low Income Housing Steering Committee, they're my dream team, and I'm really blessed to have a whole group of the very top minds in affordable housing helping to guide the direction of our group. And then finally, I'd like to thank my friend Barbara Inman for helping to get some of the speakers that we had today. It was very, very nice of you to help out in that way, and I really greatly appreciate it. First up, we have Bill Aldrich, who is responsible for the St. Petersburg operations of Baycare Health System. It includes St. Anthony's Hospital, the Carillion Outpatient Center, 2 surgery centers, over 25 physicians' offices, and several diagnostic centers. Mr. Albrecht knows firsthand the challenges of drawing employees, helping them find affordable housing, and so I'm going to just turn it right over to him.
Yes, appreciate that. When Barbara asked me if I'd be willing to come and talk about more of the experience along the lines of a business owner or a business in the community, the challenges of affordable housing, how it affects your employees and our team members is pretty significant. But first off, we're part of Baycare Health Systems. Baycare Health Systems has 10 hospitals in the Tampa Bay area, from St. Joe's, Morton Plant, St. Anthony's, over to South Florida Baptist in Plant City. We have 22,000 team members in this community, so it's a pretty large contingent spread from all ends of Pinellas County and all points in between. And I think that particular piece, when you have that many employees in an organization and having hospitals or doctor's offices and different outpatient centers and those types of things, you have all types of employees as well. So it's not only physicians and administrators, but we have the housekeepers to the technicians to the radiologists. As it goes through the whole gamut, it is really, we do face problems at all socioeconomic levels. And it's very interesting. I'm going to start with a little story about a team member who was from this area. They had to move out of her apartment that was near the hospital because they tore it down to build a condo. A little changeover from the affordable housing piece for where she was at. For her to find a place to live in Pinellas County, she worked was a radiology technician, so she took x-rays of people. For her to find a place to live, she was now up towards kind of the north side of Pinellas Park. She didn't drive because she could walk to work up to that point. So she was going to take public transportation into the hospital, because where she got her new place was right on the line where she could get on the bus, come down, make I think she had 2 transfers she had to go through to get there. Well, instead of waking up in the morning, getting ready to go to work, and walking 10 minutes up to the hospital, she now had to get up, get ready for work, and had an hour-and-a-half bus ride to get to where she needed to be so she was on time for work. Well, this employee was a phenomenal team member. For years, never attendance problems, tardiness, anything of that nature. And then all of a sudden, we didn't know she was going through this. So as leadership of the organization, you kind of know things are going on, but you don't know specifically down to a team member level what that effect caused for her. All of a sudden, she's showing up late. Some days she didn't show up at all. And what it worked back to was she couldn't get to where she lived now, to where she was working at St. Anthony's Hospital. And, that's just one of those things that if affordable housing was available, if there was more available places for people to live that were at different economic levels, it would be very beneficial from a business perspective. So here, as an operator of a business, I was looking at a case where here I had what happened to the team member? Lots of thoughts go through your head. Was there something wrong at home? What's the deal? But this was purely where she lived, and although there was good public transportation, it just was much longer and much, it missed some of the time frames for her to get where she needed to be, and it was certainly a challenge. But it's not just for this particular team member, but as we recruit people throughout the Tampa Bay community, that's, there's two things people really look at when they come in, whether they're a physician or a nurse or whatever role that they come in. They look at what are the schools, where are the good schools, where we want to be from that standpoint, and they look at affordable housing. And when in a time frame where there's a shortage of registered nurses and nurses available to take care of patients, and yet they want to come and work at our organizations, and it doesn't matter if it's St. Anthony's or if it's Bayfront or Ed White Hospital, any of the hospitals, we all face that same challenge of where are they going to live? Where can we find places that there's enough affordable housing to bring people into the system? What we're seeing in the nursing workforce is we're having kind of an aging out of our more experienced nurses. So the new nurses coming in, they're not starting at a higher pay range, they're starting at a lower pay range because they're just coming out of school, they're just getting going on their careers, and they don't have a lot of those resources. So we actually we have programs that we put together to respond to how do we help people find housing, how do we find to meet their needs so that it can help us take care of our patients, which is ultimately what we're doing there. At St. Anthony's, we have a program that assists with housing down payments. So some of the first-time home buyers looking to purchase a house, as a team member, we have stepped out and said, hey, we'll help you to get into a house. They don't have the money for the down payment. They don't have some of those resources. We're able to do some of those things in response to the shortage of the affordable housing, particularly within our area in this part of the community. As we take that and extrapolate that across 22,000 team members, across all of our organizations and all our communities, we have similar stories in all of them that look at and try to address the problems not only locally around each center or each hospital, but how do we participate and work with different governmental organizations to help improve on those issues, improve on those problems, and not be a source of more issues, but work together to come up with more solutions. It's kind of the story from a business operator's perspective. Housing is so important because if you can't get employees to come into your organization, you're not going to have the people you need and the talent level you need to do what you do, whatever your business is. In particular, in healthcare, we want to deliver the highest quality of care that we can, and we need individuals and people. It's not buildings, it's not facilities, it's not equipment. It's the people that are in our communities that are taking care of each and every one of us when you do have those types of issues. I'd be happy to answer any questions from that standpoint. I'll turn it back over to you.
Next up, we have Duke Tiemann. He is the owner of Bruce Taylor Real Estate and has been in the business for a very long time. Duke specializes in affordable housing and has served on a variety of nonprofit boards. He's very familiar with not only the problems in the field, but also is very familiar with some of the housing programs that have been offered countywide.
Thank you, Nina. A little bit more what I've been doing here since I've been in the real estate business is working with the underdogs. The first-time home buyers, those that are trying to get started, those that can never figure they could ever own a home. So I've been very active with the nonprofit organization, Tampa Bay Community Development. I'm president of the Largo Area Housing Development Corporation, and we build homes. We build homes, we rehab homes. Right now the government's giving us the money to the city of Largo to take any depressed home property that's distressed, find it, rehab it, providing the end product can be sold to 80% median income bracket people. Now, for a family of two, we're talking about $33,000. And we rehab these and get done, and they say it's affordable housing because it's only $145,000. Only $145,000. How many people in this room, and I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, are making house payments over $1,100 a month? One, okay? Two, three, all right. The rest don't want to admit where they are. Okay, that's fine. But that's what they're expecting the working class people to pay for affordable housing. $1,000 to $1,100 a month. Every place I go, somebody says, well, I don't understand what your problem is. God, interest rates has never been 3.75. That's the most fantastic interest rate we've ever had in our life. I remember when I got into the into the real estate business, and we were paying 7 and 8%. I could go out and advertise. If you're paying rent, I can put you in a home for what you're paying rent. What it would cost you to move to another place, quality place to rent, you're going to put up first and last, correct? Possibly a little security deposit. For that money, I can move you into a home, and I'll guarantee your monthly payment will be the same or less than what you're paying. So, of course, it'd come running to me. I can't say that now. I can't say that now. I just sold a home for Habitat. It was the old style, so they didn't want to put it back in inventory. Our highest bid was an investor. It's a new class of investors that's out there eating up the market where our people can't afford to buy a home. These are not flippers, not the people that cosmetic and turn something over and it ended up being a money pit for the poor people that tried to buy it. These are investors that buy it, make it up to a strong stand-up point. Just exquisite, the way it should be. Rent it for a year at $950 to $1,000 a month rent, and then sell it in a year from now at the new higher market. You look at the paper, you'll say, all right, sales are going better than they've ever been. That means more people are buying homes. No, they're trying to, but what's happening is the short sales are finally materializing to closing. The average short sale takes 4 to 6 months before it closes. That long. So the question comes up then, why aren't people buying foreclosures? We teach a class the third Saturday of every month, and then once a year we do a Hope Expo to help people understand and get a certificate so they qualify for programs to buy affordable housing. And it always comes up, I want to buy a foreclosed property. Man, or a short sale. Man, you can get a real steal. There's no steal out there in the real estate market today. There's some good buys, but there's no steal. But the public is confused with the fact, in one of our classes 2 months ago, one of them came up and said, I know that my friend bought a $350,000 home on a short sale for $125,000. He had to wait 5 months, but he still got a steal. No, I hate to break the news to you. If your friend wants to be honest with you and let him show you the appraisal value, you'll find out he did what? He paid $125,000 for a home that was worth, if you haven't been around me before, I'll have to have him explain to you. This is a participating group, okay? He paid a $125,000 home for a home that was worth $125,000. Unfortunately, the seller owed the bank $350,000. That's where the short comes in, not in price value, but the bank's taking a loss. Now, if they don't want to, they'll go into foreclosure, which means that property sits in the neighborhood for 1 year before it can be sold. 1 year. What happens to a building sitting empty for a year? Deteriorates constantly. And as it deteriorates, and we try to enforce local city code, the bank says, oh, we're a victim. We're the victim. We can't be responsible for maintaining the property, maintaining the lot. So that house sits there, and now what happens to your house? Your value is going like this, and you're not a happy camper. Only when the tax bill comes in. Other than that, you're not a happy camper. Okay? So that's what the transition is. So why don't we sell the foreclosed property? Well, I just got done telling you, it sits for how long before it's for sale?
1 year.
1 year. And in that length of time, a lot happens. Either from the irate person who lost the home, or from the neighbors that find out it's vacant. So when I take my clientele in there, the first thing I gotta break the news to them, you understand, there'll be no range and no refrigerator. Sometimes there's not even any kitchen cabinets. Sometimes there's not even a commode. They take the sink. It's gotta be out of spite, because, I mean, what can you sell a used sink for? I don't know. And what are you gonna do with the commode? Make a flower pot out of it for the front yard? You know, what else? Well, North End, they do that. Anyway, that's the problem we're running into. And then how are they gonna get the house financed? Well, if they use county money, and most programs that they fall into, if they're a little bit higher income and they can't go the standard program, we can go the county money and get them $5,000. That's the only one that's got a prayer, because the county says, if FHA will approve it, we'll loan you the $5,000 for financial assistance. So if it passes FHA, well, what does FHA require? The old days, it was a living nightmare, not today. They use the same appraisal slip as they do for conventional, and the requirements is the safe, sound, and solid. Safe, sound, and solid. So the exterior has got to be solid and good there. The roof has got to be good. As far as the inside is concerned, there has to be nothing that would cause an accident or somebody to get hurt. So the fact that there's no appliances, you definitely won't get hurt there, right? Carpeting is one of the biggest issues that always comes up. It can be the most disgusting carpet you ever saw in your life. It looks like the kids rode on it, they spilled everything they could. Somebody even pressed their hair because there's a burn, from that. But if there's no holes, FHA will pass it. Now, will my customer want it that way? No, they're already figuring, well, now I gotta buy a carpet too next, and then I gotta buy some furniture, I gotta buy some appliances. So how are they gonna do that? Charge. Credit cards, go to Home Depot, or rooms to go, and get themselves 4 or 5 rooms, with no payments for a year. And then we'll double up on the payments and charge you twice the interest. But that's what they're confronted with. They cannot afford what's out there. Now, if they really want to get some assistance, they want to buy in the city of Clearwater, they can get $14,000 in assistance. There isn't a short sale or a foreclosed property that'll even come close to passing inspection. Let's go in St. Pete and be closer to some of these hospitals, okay? I can get 10% of the sales price right off the bat, and another $5,000 towards closing costs. Wow, that's the way to go. Except none of these houses will pass their inspection. They won't pass code, they won't pass conditions, or whatever. So if we're fortunate enough to find one that an investor, a true good investor, has rehabbed up to right, or a municipality has rehabbed up to right, or one of the 3 nonprofits has rehabbed up to right, we might have a house to buy. Now, what would you think would be an average sales price that somebody might be looking at? I don't care. You can't be wrong because it's a personal opinion. Throw me a number. Nina's got a whole list of people that's got to talk, and I'm not going to quit until you participate. She's going to be getting nervous over there, chewing on her fingernails.
50,000.
50,000. All right, let's start with a $50,000 home. Houses that are on the market today for $50,000 you wouldn't live in. They're completely depressed. We are paying $55,000 and $60,000 for distressed properties with our nonprofits in order to rehab them and make them livable. So what you're starting to end up with is the houses running from $75,000 to $100,000. What kind of people have you got? You tell me. Is it working class of people? That's what we're trying to do is affordable housing, correct? All right, you got a single person, you got a married person. Not necessarily married. If you got a single person, or one that has a significant other in their life. It's your story, you tell me.
Single.
I won't
Single.
give up, but I just don't want you to fall. Okay? That's all right.
Single.
Give me a scenario.
Single.
All right, got a single person. What do they make an hour? 10, 12, 15, 30, 20?
12.
$12 an hour. Single person, $12 an hour, okay? It's 12 times 40 times 52 divided by 12 times 0.29. Providing they don't have any car payments. If they're trying to use the public bus service that he referred to. Okay, so let's take their scenario we got right here for 12 times 40 hours times 52 weeks divided by 12. At this point, we're down to $2,000 a month, $2,100 times 0.29. The maximum house payment they should be able to afford, according to statistics, is $605 a month. All right? Now you say, well, interest is cheap. So let's give them a $100,000 home. It's simple, so you don't have to worry about using a calculator. It's 5 cents a thousand. So that's $500 base for the house payment, principal, and interest. Is that correct? Did you have to answer or nod your head?
Yes.
A little bit? Something. You do something, so I know you're still with me. That's $500 a month. Now, the average home in this area is empty. Therefore, there's no homestead. So the taxes on the property is $1,800. That's $150 a month. Trying to buy the house with 3.5% down from wherever they get it for an FHA loan, they're going to have mortgage insurance. That's $125 a month. Then comes our great, big, helpful friend on affordable housing. Insurance. Currently running from $1,800 to $2,000. That's another $150 a month. She can't afford a house. She thinks she can because she's paying $750 a month for rent. She can't afford a house. So the only prayer we got is financial assistance. So we've got to stick with some place that's going to qualify for some type of financial aid. With her kind of income, we need to find her something in St. Pete that will pass the inspections of the code department, or find her something in Clearwater that will pass the code there and get the $14,000 in assistance. If she was up just a hair more, being a single person, she wouldn't be allowed to even get that. She'd have to go with the county, which is $5,000, which would cover her closing costs and not lower the amount she's going to finance. That's our problem, ladies and gentlemen. They call it affordable housing. They say the market's picking up. It is. We're selling more homes than we have been. But it's a tough way to go. And because of this, it goes fast. The home I just had for Habitat lasted 4 days on the market. And the reason for that is because it was a weekend. I couldn't talk to anybody from Habitat for Saturday and Sunday. I'd wait till Monday. And by Monday night, we had the deal. The house I had over in another part of Clearwater on Jasmine Way, $75,000, needed air conditioning and needed a roof. It brought $75,000 because of the location. 6 days. I had a customer out there last night that can afford a little bit more. We're looking at $150,000, $160,000 homes. We've written 6 contracts. We lost 5 of them by not bidding high enough. So the one yesterday was $150,000. We bid $160,000. And they're not sure they're going to let us know today whether or not we get the house. If the house is conditioned and is right, there's people bidding on them like crazy. It's not going to be stupid like it was during the insanity period. Don't misunderstand me. The insanity period got way out of hand. It's not doing that. But there's a market for saleable merchandise. And people don't want to go through these short sales. It takes too long to get an answer. They wait 4 to 6 months and then find out maybe they didn't get it. Now they've lost some of the program. We've had people come to our class that said, oh, it was worse than 6 months wait, you know, everything's great. I'm in here to get my class because I got to renew my certificate so I can get that $12,000 from the city of Largo. I said, what $12,000? Well, they got $12,000 assistance. No. That was the first of the year, they already ran out of money. Well, they can't, they knew I was gonna buy this house. No, this is not a reserve, it's what? First come, first served. Till the money runs out. They won't get another allotment from the government until September. So now she waited 6 months, she lost the house, now she's got to start all over again. That's what we're faced with. That's what we're faced with. Trying to get in there before investors do. Trying to get enough financial assistance from outside sources. There's some other programs out there, but they have payments connected with it. They can't stand any more payments. Programs I'm referring to that we try to get as many people into as humanly possible is no interest and no payment till you sell the house or vacate the property. Then you got to pay it back. So when you sell the property, that's not a problem paying it back. But if you find another significant other in your life and you move, then you got to pay it back. So that becomes a problem. Any other questions? I'm not trying to paint a dismal picture, but I want you to be realistic what's going on. Everybody said, prices are so cheap and interest is so low, I can't understand why people aren't jumping all over the place. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question out here, but I was gonna ask Bill, because Bill talked about, Bill, the workers that you're talking about, what would you say is an average wage that the ones that are struggling to find homes for?
They're in that range of 12 to 15.
They are.
We don't have many below 12, and there's, so, even when I was playing with the numbers you put up there, it'd be around $20 an hour before you can afford something like that.
Now see, if it's a major firm or a major hospital, some of them will offer assistant programs for down payment, okay? And it's no lien on the property. It has to do with your loyalty, how long you've been with the company, and et cetera, which is good. Okay, now she can go for the other program. In some cases, we have to find out where they're trying to buy and how stable they are. Sometimes we can stack two programs, but not very often. Because you understand, with foreclosed property, what's happening is whoever got the second mortgage is in trouble, correct? I mean, even you know that if you haven't been faced with it. Second mortgage doesn't have any collateral. So now, if you do two programs, the third position, which is City of Clearwater, City of St. Pete, or City of Largo, they're in the wind, taking third position in order to put up 5,000 to 10,000. But they're willing to if we got enough going for them. And FHA keeps changing their mind, and changing their mind. We used to be able to go for 6% from the seller. Well, with the market the way it is, they don't want to hardly give you anything, but they're trying to change it now to 3%. We've gone from a 510 to 520, 540, 560. They're pushing 580 for a credit score. Now, some of you in this room, that sounds like a terribly low score. But for the working class of people, that's about right. I mean, they're not bad people. They're working hard and they pay their bills. They just can't pay all of them exactly on time every month. So they play the 5-week game. Every month they've got 5 weeks. So you get yours on the first the way you're supposed to, then pay him on the 5th, and the next one on the 10th, and the 15th. You don't roll around again until the 5th of next month, or the 10th out of that check. And then it goes to the next check. And then all of a sudden they're a month behind. So what do? The kind of credit cards that they get hit with the double interest, 27%. Then they got all these ads out there with, well, I'm not allowed to discuss me, but there's credit cards being offered to help you restore your credit. They start you off with a $500 limit, but you got to pay $150 to get it, $175 membership, $50 advance fee. By the time you get the card, you only got $100 left. So if you celebrate, go out and have dinner someplace, take a friend with you, it's $105. They'll honor it. They'll pay the bill. But now since you went over, there's a $25 charge for going over, plus the interest, and now you're behind. Yes, ma'am.
The assistance that the city and the county offers, is that a loan or is it a grant?
All loans. We have no grants left. We used to have grants, but now they loan so they can recycle the money. The better programs are no interest and no payments until the property. So if someone, depending on their income, you have to start making payments within a couple of years. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify something Duke said. I'm Barbara Inman for Habitat for Humanity. I'm the president and CEO for Pinellas County. And he brought up a really good point that I wanted to sort of underscore, and that was the insurance cost that he put up there. I don't know about you, but that's a high insurance cost for like an 1,100 square foot house, which is
That's
probably
right.
what he's talking about. And in 2004, after the hurricanes went through, I started signing insurance checks because we write the mortgage and we collect the escrow for our homeowners, and so we pay their taxes and we pay their insurance every year. I started signing $3,000 checks for some of our homeowners. And so we made a concerted effort to begin building our homes such that the insurance costs would be lower. And so none of our the new houses we built since 2005 have an insurance bill of more than $800 a year. So that house there, for example, and the house that he's selling for us is an old house of ours that has high utility bills and high insurance bills. And that's really what the kind of home that he's talking about that's on the market, those are the kinds of costs that come with buying some of those homes. It's the high
And
insurance.
the new homes that
and
we're
high
building, and we have been building a lot, but the new homes we're building, like Barbara said, now we've got the energy efficiency, we've got the double strength, and all this and that, but you get a nice discount. But it costs, I mean, I'm buying lots right now for $20,000. We used to pay $60,000 to $75,000 for a normal lot. We're paying $20,000, and we're still having a problem, because it still costs $115,000 to $120,000 to build the house. And now we got $135,000 in it, not counting closing costs when we bought it, not counting closing costs when we sell, and we're entitled as a nonprofit to make $5,000. So unless the city or the municipality or the government is willing to take a loss, we've got to sell it for $149,000. Even with the insurance cutting down from $1,800 down to about $1,000, on the last one, that's still $1,012, it's still $75 a month, so that's $75 less on the payment than that. They're still at $850. Even with good insurance. Yes, sir.
Just to follow up, the reasons that you can get the insurance down is because your costs are higher because of better efficiencies and things like that that you're putting into the home? Or
Yes. Steve, there any insurance reps in the room? Okay, because at Hope Expo I get in trouble every time when I say this. As far as I'm concerned, insurance companies are like Reno, Nevada, and Vegas. They play the odds, okay? So the home that I just had that burned, the odds were high. Wood frame house, old house, Tampa Bay, moved it from Morton Plant over to this location, brought a garage over, attached the two to make a dining room, high risk, okay? Now my new home that I built after that burnt down is all the new requirements, all the new energy efficiency, all the double straps on the roof and everything else. So I got $450 discount after they figured out my policy. Because the odds are, I'm not going to lose my roof. The odds are, concrete block, I'm not going to burn as quick as the wood frame did. The odds are, I shouldn't have any electrical problems. So the odds are, they play the odds no matter what they tell you. They say it's based on overall averages. Okay? But I have been asked to leave because I've never had a claim in 15 years. And they told me the odds are against me. So they want me to leave and go get another insurance. Then when I do the Hope Expo and I mention odds, they get all upset. Never use that term because that's not what it's based on. Any other questions? It's still a great time to buy a house. You just have to understand these people need help. They're family members and they really need to have their own home. Because of this situation, the way it's going, people are starting to charge more and more for rent. So that it's not being fair. We're just beating the working class to death on sale prices of homes and what the rent's going to be. They're so convinced that's going to happen. There's new complexes built in Largo, new complexes in Clearwater, just for rent. Building them all over the place, just for rent. Anything else?
Next, we have Mike Mydell. He is with Pinellas County's Economic Development Department. He's out and about in the community all the time and trying to attract jobs, and so he's going to share with us some of his observations.
Got a little bit of a slideshow here. A big part of affordable housing, of course, is the other half, getting the income up as well as trying to find prices that are low. So I wanted to give you a quick overview of that and then show you how what I do day in and day out really does tie into the housing availability in the area. My primary job is to create more and better jobs for Pinellas County citizens. And we'll describe what better means as we move forward through the show. Just give you a brief overview of economic development. What we do, these are our primary mission within the organization. These are our 4 key areas that we're working. First of all, we want to retain the companies we have and help them to grow. And particularly encourage entrepreneurship, where we start new companies and get people moving from being employed to being an employer, and the wages go up accordingly. The other is to attract new high-wage, high-quality jobs to Pinellas County, and we do that by bringing in companies from outside the state primarily. Occasionally, we'll see some from other areas of the state, and we do not proactively search for those, because that's just stealing from within Florida, but primarily looking out of state. Facilitating the productive workforce. If we don't have the workers that the companies need to do the work that they're doing, that company doesn't locate here. And this is becoming one of our primary problems right now, particularly in the IT field. We've got a lot of demand for computer programmers, designers, just everybody working in the software field. And we're finding a real dearth of qualified workers in that area. We're working with the educational community to try to gear programs specifically to the needs that businesses have today, the software languages that are in demand versus just software overall. And then finally, improve the business climate in Pinellas County while preserving our quality of life. That involves making it easy to make a decision to locate here. Permitting issues, land use and zoning issues, and then obviously having a good quality of life, which includes the housing. Having quality, affordable housing in safe neighborhoods and attractive areas with parks and schools and recreation. That's part of the ability to attract businesses. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of analogy here. Think of the economy overall as a bucket, and it's just a container to hold money, which, if you look at the next slide, we're talking about water in the bucket. We think of that water as dollars within our local economy. So Pinellas County as an economic entity contains money. And part of our job is to make sure we have more money all the time. We want to have lots of money in that bucket and keep growing that amount. Which is basically what I said here. So, and then we're always looking for new ways to fill that bucket, new companies to bring into the area. And what we're looking at is, here's where we kind of define what is a quality job and what is it that we're really targeting as an economic development agency. A primary industry is an industry that sells most of their product outside of Pinellas County. So what they're doing is they're making something here or providing a service here, and they're selling it elsewhere. And the guys send back the sales price of that product or service to Pinellas County. So now we have more money in our bucket. And the employer, in turn, pays payroll out to his employees who work primarily in Pinellas County or surrounding areas. They go home and spend their paycheck primarily in the local area, and then that's how we gain new money within that local economy. The only way to build an economy is to bring in those new quantity of dollars. And then what we try to do on top of that quantity issue is we try to find companies that pay a high average wage, because we want a lot of discretionary income on these new employees. If they've got more money to spend locally with local companies as opposed to the required, I mean, you got to buy food, and we don't grow a lot of food here anymore. So a lot of that money leaks out of our economy. So if you have a higher discretionary income, yes, you'll have them buying food, but you'll have them buying luxury goods and services that are available right here in the local area. They're eating in restaurants more. They're buying spas, spa services, and so on. That only comes with a higher level of income, so that's what we're trying to do here. So we work with those kinds of companies, both targeting existing businesses within the area that sell outside the area, and then everybody we try to bring in has to meet those criteria. These are our primary broad buckets of companies that we're trying to attract, and they also happen to be industries that we have a pretty good concentration of already. Aviation and aerospace. I mean, first of all, a lot of people don't realize that Pinellas County is the second largest manufacturing employment base in the state of Florida. Only Miami-Dade County has more people working every day in manufacturing than we do right here. People don't realize that. We think of this as a tourism location. But up and down Ulmerton Road on both sides, throughout the Gateway area, and in pockets all around the county, we have these kinds of industries. Aviation and aerospace, we've got all of the big names there. Lockheed Martin is the primary example right here, and they make parts for the new F-22 Raptor fighter. They're applying for a contract to replace a missile system on a Navy ship. The Raytheon does the many, many different communications contracts, but primarily the new destroyer fleet will have communication systems built by Raytheon here in Pinellas County. It's a very unusual thing that people don't realize. Defense and national security, obviously there's a big overlap there in the aviation and aerospace, but on the national security front, we've got a lot of companies. L3 is a company that makes those scanners for airports. This is the scanners that use radio technology rather than X-ray technology, but they're made here in Pinellas County. So medical technologies, we're one of the strongest areas in the country for medical devices. We have companies that, Bausch & Lomb is here, and Baxter, some of you would know that as a major medical device company. But we've got dozens of small companies with 30 to 50 employees who are making everything from pacemaker leads to medical tubing and to actual devices that arthroscopic surgeons use to work on your knees and joints. So those are significant employers in the area. Business and financial services, here are some of these names you know because of the Raymond James and Franklin Templetons. We also have Mercury Insurance, Aegon, a lot of different companies that deal with insurance. And here with the financial services, we're not looking at our depository institutions, the local banks, because they're primarily serving the local market. They're taking deposits, they're giving out loans. We're looking at companies that are the larger nationwide and worldwide powerhouses like Raymond James that are moving money from all over the country. And then information technology, we have a lot of companies that develop software and that customize it for individual industries. One thing that we have here is kind of unique and we're trying to exploit is the huge amount of customer data that we have, people's buying decisions. And Catalina Marketing within Carillon does the coupons that you go like to a drugstore and you buy Huggies and they give you a Pampers coupon to try to get you to move off of that. They know what you bought just then and they record that in their database out there in Carillon. And anytime you buy with anything other than cash, they know what you bought and what you spent on it and where you bought it and brand names, everything. So all that data is coordinated and sold to the advertisers. Then you've got, obviously, Home Shopping Network based here. So they've got a lot of data on their customers and on sales patterns and trends. Nielsen, the media research people that do all the ratings for television, they're based here. And they're now working on web-type ratings as well. So these people all collect a lot of different data, and we're trying to look at ways to help them to work and partner with each other. Valpak is another one. The coupons that you get in the mail, they're all printed right here in Pinellas County off of I-275. That's that huge facility that's out there. All four of those can work together to try to expand their markets and grow. And most of their customers, again, are outside the local area. So they're the perfect target for us. Retaining is important. We don't want these customers to walk on us and take their jobs with us and their money with us, so with them. So we want to be able to continue to work with them and help them to grow. Even if the industry itself is not growing, we don't want to lose that base of employment and of new income that's coming into the area. This is just an example of a company from a few years back. Hawkey Roberts is a company that makes valves, both for the medical industry and for life vests and things for the airline industry and for the military. They're located right next to Valpak, so further in up by 28th Street, so you don't see them very often. It's actually a photo of their older facility. But they were looking around and considering Alabama and Texas. We were able to bring them into the property there in Gateway, and they had 160,000 square feet and $20 million capital investment, and then those 79 people continue to work here rather than somewhere else. Stirring the water. Now, this is where we're going to try to take the money that we get from those primary employers and pay it out in payroll and try to increase the number of local transactions that occur before that money leaks out. So in a way, the other half of our job is the small business assistance centers that work with our small businesses, whether they're target industries or not, to help them to succeed, so that the dollars continue to be spent here locally and people don't go elsewhere to buy those services. And the more times that dollar turns over, when you hear about these economic impact analyses and they say, well, there's 79 direct jobs, but there's 220 indirect jobs, that's because the money that's coming in is getting spent again and again and again in the local area. And the way they calculate that multiplier is knowing what that company tends to buy and what those employees tend to buy, putting through a very large computer model. But certain types of industries buy more locally and their employees tend to buy more locally, and that multiplier goes up. So that's what we're trying to do here, is increase that multiplier, the number of times that spins over. And each time that dollar changes hands, that's income in somebody's pocket, even though it's the same dollar. So we want to continue to build that as well. Then this is why 80% of our businesses have 10 employees or less. So the small business is very important to Pinellas County in particular. And then we do this through a number of methods. The Small Business Development Center works with counseling and classes for small businesses and entrepreneurs. If you want to start a new business, they'll help you through that. Even if you've had a business for decades and you want to figure out how to make a little more money, hire a few more people, we can help you with market studies, with looking at the pricing of your product, with all kinds of things, insurance, financing for an expansion. The Small Business Group can help you with that. The Small Business Enterprise Program, I won't get into all of this, but the Small Business Enterprise is the set aside within county government. All purchases between $5,000 and $25,000 are set aside for quotes from small businesses that are located right here in Pinellas County. And so we try to build up and buy in a kind of a buy local program. And that kind of leads right into the plugging the leaks. You know, every time somebody spends $1 in Tampa rather than here, we've lost that dollar. So it's got splashed out of our bucket. We need to try to get people to buy local as much as possible, and particularly to buy Florida versus out of state when we work with our large industrial clients. But even at the small business level, trying to get small businesses together with each other. And really that's why we partner with chambers, why we partner with the Small Business Enterprise Program. And we have that networking directory. We always point people to that networking directory when they say, hey, I need a local lawyer, accountant, lawn service, whatever. It's right there. And that's where we direct folks to help raise their money and keep that money, again, circulating in the world. And then finally, we've got to have enough room in the bucket for the new businesses. And as you look around Pinellas County, there's not a lot of empty land left. And that's part of the problem moving forward, is how do we make sure that we reuse the space we already have and move forward and really to help improve the quality of the land that we have available. And this is kind of a brief overview of what Pinellas County looks like. We are not truly urban. I mean, we've got more people per square mile than anywhere else in Florida, 3,300 people per square mile, by far the most densely populated. But in reality, it's like suburbia on steroids. It's not, you know, other than downtown St. Petersburg, we don't have a concentration of both jobs and residents that looks anything like an urban area. So that's what we're trying to identify. How do we build those urban areas in some areas of the county while leaving the quality of life and the neighborhoods intact within other areas of the county? And part of the issue on the industrial and commercial side is 34% of our industrial structures are 40 or more years old. These are old buildings, and generally old metal buildings that are leaking and falling apart. And we can't get top quality, high-end employers into an old, leaky, ugly, rusty building. So how do we go about redeveloping those areas? And that's been part of the effort we have going forward. Again, we've talked on a lot of this. In 2007, really, when things started falling apart economically, we were pretty much out of space. Now, we've obviously picked up a little room due to the economic downturn, but in many cases, it's companies shrinking within their existing space. So what we're seeing now is even as they're growing, they're not buying new land or buildings. They're just growing back into the space they occupied, 5 and 6 years ago. So, but when they finally do expand beyond those limits, we're going to see increased demand for industrial and commercial space, and we'll have that pressure building again to to be able to find locations for them here in Pinellas County or risk losing them in Pasco County or elsewhere. So that's what we're working on, is just making sure that over time we're helping redevelop those areas. And it's really, it's a law of supply and demand. We only have so much land available. Part of what we're doing, and the overall study for this is something called Pinellas by Design. It was a full-blown study that took 3 years to develop, has been approved by every city within Pinellas County and Pinellas County government, every city except Indian Rocks Beach. As I said, this is the framework we want to use going forward. Part of that is to identify what is the future demand for industrial space and office space, identify what we already have, and then we look at the cost differential. And it's primarily what's it going to cost to build a new office tower or a new high-quality industrial space within the existing constraints of our redevelopment code. And part of the problem is when you look at an older industrial, we've got this old industrial building, say it's 40,000 square feet, an old metal building, you need to tear it down. Problem is, if you tear it down and we're trying to replace it with a tilt wall concrete building, what you're going to end up with is less space to actually build that building, because you're going to have to meet the new codes. We've got to meet the new parking, the new setbacks, the new landscaping, and the new stormwater retention. So by the time you take all of that land away from what was the building, you've got much less square footage, and you've got a more expensive building to build. There, it's a lot cheaper for them to go to Pasco County and raw land and actually build that new building. So we need to do things both in the financing side and in assembling land and helping with land use and zoning and permitting, just a variety of things, but to help bring the cost down of redeveloping that property and bring incentives to play. And one of those is a thing called brownfields, and that's an opportunity to take a piece of property that's had something on it in the past and apply state and federal incentives to it to help them to redevelop. Part of it is providing some level of indemnification for any previous pollutants that they've done on the site, help them clean up the building and get it back on the market. And then housing. Housing has been an issue. We had, everybody in the county was upset about workforce housing back before the economy started falling apart. It got better, but it's starting to get to be a real problem again, and I'll show you some numbers in these remaining slides that give you an idea. We're working ourselves into that same supply and demand situation. And then, just to kind of summarize this, the redevelopment efforts, it's only makes sense within this built-out area to do some redevelopment. We've got to make effective land use decisions. They're not going to make any more land. We've got to do what we can with what we've got. We've got to develop those urban downtowns while preserving our quality communities. And just make sure that we keep that competitive edge when we're dealing with others, and make sure that we're protecting our environmental resources, including our parks and our big preserve areas like Booker Creek and Wheaton Island and so on. We want to make sure you have an opportunity to get out into nature, even when we're the most densely populated. This is an example of a redevelopment project. Alp South actually bought a former motor vehicle inspection building. Remember, that was a surplus piece of county property. We put out on the market and then got bids on it. And instead of saying we're just going to take the highest bidder on the property, we said, we also, when you give us your bid proposal for buying this piece of property, tell us what kind of jobs you're going to create, what kind of benefits you're going to pay for the employees, and overall, if you've got any other benefits you can provide to the community. We had a couple of bidders, well, we had more than 2 bidders, but the one that really kind of makes things clear is we had a company that wanted to put public storage in there, out in the roll-up doors, and you just put your extra junk there. And you got maybe 1 person, maybe 2 employed at any given time of the day. What happened though, for the same price, it turns out, we, after negotiation, because we could do that, these guys came in with a lower price, but they were going to create 60 new jobs and spread it out and save their 72 current employees, put in $2 million capital investment to upgrade that facility. We were able to go back to them because of the structure of the RFP and say, okay, can you match the bid that was made by the public storage facility? They were able to do that, and they purchased the property and been expanding ever since. And these are the guys that did the tail for winter, the little pad on the dolphin. So these guys invented the product that protects the dolphin's body from the actual artificial limb. And then they use that same product for soldiers for their artificial limbs. So that's one of their main primary products. And then another one we had is remember the old GE facility that made nuclear weapons components back in the 90s? The county bought that for $1. And at the time the contract ended with the Department of Energy, there were about 2,000 employees on that site. Today there are over 1,800 employees there in 30 different businesses. So we have 1 million square feet of manufacturing space that would have gone away. We're able to completely redevelop, and this is an enterprise fund, so the entire operation is paid for out of the rents that we receive from the tenants in the building. So this is an example of a reuse of existing space. Now I'll give you some ideas of some of what's going on in the economy today. The next slide gives you, it's hard to see those numbers, but it's a good overview. First of all, on the employment side, we've got very good news. From June 2012 is the most recent data that we have. If you look at year-ago numbers, we've added 15,820 jobs in Pinellas County over the last year. These are people working today that weren't working a year ago. So sometimes, when you look at the unemployment rate, there's two things that mix in with that: the number of people working and the number of people looking for work. The employment figures are actual jobs, people working each day and earning a paycheck, and that's up 4% over the year. And really over the trough, the lowest employment level occurred in January of 2011. Since then, we've added 24,000 new jobs. So there are more people working today. If you look at the unemployment rate, the rate has dropped from a year ago, from 10.7 down to 8.6, so that's a 2.1 drop. We did see, and you may have heard this on the news most recently, we did bump up slightly on the unemployment rate month over month. That's because we had 1,000 new people employed, but we had 3,000 people come in looking for work. So because of that, because there were more people looking for a job, the rate actually bumped up slightly. And in a way, that's a good news, because people are starting to have some confidence in the economy again and are back out there looking for jobs. The next item is the unemployment claims. Again, those are down by 31% from a year ago. The numbers lag a little bit. May is the newest data we have, but for Pinellas County alone. But it's definitely moving in the right direction. These are a number of people who've just recently been fired and let go from jobs. Looking at the average wage in the targeted industries. Target industries are the ones we talked about earlier, the financial services, the aviation, aerospace, and defense. It's way up. Now $69,615 is our average wage, 4.8% up from last year. And that compares to the average wage of the county as a whole of $42,319. So you can see that there's been a big increase, and there's also a widening gap between the average wage and our target industry wage. And looking up at the top two in the second column deal with the vacancy rate and the average rate for renting, both office and industrial square footage. On the industrial side, it's been pretty stable. Very little fluctuation in the vacancy rate. That's not entirely where we want to be with a vacancy rate. We'd like to see it a little bit lower, but realistically, with the age of our buildings, that's about right. The price is way down from where it was. $5 is pretty sorry for the square footage. We'd like to see it more up in the $6, even $8 range, but it'll take a long time for those prices to recover. Office space, the vacancies are still high, and in fact, this is a blended rate for all over the county. If you look in some areas, they can be well over 20% for some types of office product. And again, the prices just keep falling on that to try to draw people into those office products. So you're not going to see an office building built anytime soon unless it's for a specific tenant. Moving down to the median sales price for single-family homes, this is where we're starting to see some pressure. May of 2011 or May 2012, prices are up 15.4%. That's pretty significant when you think that they've been dropping. It's quite a turnaround now. And really over the past, the first 6 months of this year versus first 6 months of last year, they continue to go up. So it's, I think we have hit the bottom on some of these prices. Then if you look at the condominium prices, they kind of follow suit. Again, the percentage of the price is at 19%. So that's an increasing pressure again on the affordability of properties. And then even our population has increased by 2,000 people. And you've probably heard in the news that it had been dropping for the last half of the previous decade. So we're actually starting to see people move back in. And that's primarily because they can afford to sell their houses elsewhere and start moving back in again. So that activity, again, will put more pressure on the price of housing. And some background information there, the unit sales for real estate, for residential real estate, are up. And they're up by about 3 times over the trough that occurred in 2008. So more unit sales are occurring every month by a factor of 3 compared to what it was in the darkest days. Prices are up slightly, as you see, and then the inventory is way down. The number of homes available for sale has dropped quite a bit. In fact, right now, they're saying there's only about 3.4 months of available single-family homes on the market. And 6 months is the typical inventory you like to have. So there's a lot of supply and demand pressure right now, and we're beginning to see the prices rise considerably in the higher-end, more desirable markets right now, and getting above appraised values, and because of that demand for a limited product. The inventory for condominiums is slightly higher, but again, it shrunk. It was about 9 months, and it's down now to about 5.5 months worth of inventory available. To be able to afford the housing and to be able to keep that money circulating locally. Now this one is nearly impossible to look at, but we will have this slideshow available to you so you can get the details. I thought you'd be interested in seeing, this is the top 20 occupations in Pinellas County. And it accounts for over 1/3 of total employment. So 20 different types of jobs, a full 1/3 of everybody who's working. And of these 20, only 4 make more than the average wage. The registered nurses make more, and the average wage actually works out for $20.35 an hour. So if you take a look at that, the first-line supervisors of retail sales workers, of office support workers, and then accountants and auditors, those are the only groups that actually make more than the average wage. And really, a first-line supervisor of a retail sales worker is like the manager of a retail store at the mall. I mean, that's the kind of people we're looking at. They're barely making above the average wage for the area. All those other positions, the retail salespersons and cashiers and waiters and waitresses and office clerks and secretaries and stock clerks, on and on and on again, up to almost, again, even if you factor out those 4 high-wage occupations, you're still at over 1/3 of total employment, making less than the average wage. So that's what we're dealing with. We've got to be able to find these people housing, because those are not jobs we can do without. They are all here within the local economy, and we do have to find housing and opportunities for these people to move up into the growing economy. And next. Then we look at by industry. This is not looking at occupations, but as industrial categories. And again, the average wage, what's interesting about this one, for the entire accommodations and food services, this is all bars, restaurants, and hotel workers, the average wage is $8.45. That's not enough. And that is also one of the highest occupations. We'll see on the next slide. But another one on this one, yeah, it's fine. We're probably going to have to bounce back and forth a little bit here. But another one of the largest occupations is, of course, in retail trade. Blended rate for retail trade, this includes the store managers and buyers at huge department stores all the way down to the retail clerks and cashiers. It's $13.55. Again, that's, when the average wage is $20.35, that's not enough to make a living wage by any stretch. And then if you look at the high-end industries, the largest ones, management of companies and enterprises, which amounts to really identifying a corporate headquarters location. This is where all of the CEOs and the lawyers and the accountants reside. They may be a manufacturing company, but the location in Pinellas County, or right here for this chart, would be people who do the office work for the company. That's the highest wage of $36.43 on the average. And then of the others, manufacturing and the professional and technical services and information are all part of our target industries, and they all make well above the average wage. And it's anywhere from manufacturing is 29% higher than the average wage, and the headquarters locations are 79% higher than the average wage. And the other message I want to get from this is, even though these industries pay good wages, this is a blended rate. This is everybody, really, if the janitor is employed by the company, it's from that and the file clerks and the low-end entry-level positions and manufacturing assembling jobs, all the way up to the industrial engineers and the CEOs and the back office people. So it's, even within a company and within an industry, you're going to have people who require low-income housing. And if we lose the low-income housing, we lose the ability to attract low-income workers, and we lose the opportunity for all workers, because the company can't come here if they're having to bus their people in from, in some cases, all the way from Hernando County. We've got a lot of workers up in Spring Hill that make that commute every day, and they're either trying to make it on their own or they're getting some kind of assistance. So it's a tough situation, and we need a continuum of opportunity, and the only way to do that is to make sure that all levels of income are accommodated within our housing. And I think this kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude. Our largest industry is by far healthcare, and that's why it's so important. We heard, over 67,000 people work in the healthcare business within Pinellas County. And that's far and away the highest. Retail trade is only 49,000. And then when you look at accommodations and food services, all the hotels, bars, and restaurants are 37,000. And then you start dropping off rapidly at that point. Professional and technical services is 25,000. Manufacturing is 30,000. So, and then everything else drops quite a bit. And we'll see that, healthcare is a huge employer in our area. They do make slightly above the average wage as an industry as a whole, but they are a perfect example of continuums from the doctors down to the housekeeping people and the food service people. So we need to accommodate every level in order to attract any level. And I think that's it. Any questions? That's a lot of data to throw at you, I know, but we will have this available so you can use it in your own work.
Mike, I saw some statistics recently that the available housing stock at the low end is getting crunched so significantly, there actually isn't anything available.
Yeah, and part of that happened because when all those land kept going up in prices, we had all that activity, flurry of activity trying to buy up land for condominiums, because everybody thought, now I'm going to make a bundle on these high-end condominiums. So you ended up with large mobile home parks going away. You ended up with some of the older hotels going away, some of the older apartment buildings and so on. And then the crash hit, and you end up with an empty lot. So the housing didn't get replaced in many cases. And you've got empty land that used to be housing, used to be low-end housing. And some of the projects actually did get into the market and were intended for high-end condominiums and got converted to rental. But that's a very small share compared to the property that turned over and actually ended up empty. You can go all over this county and find empty lots that were once mobile home parks.
So from a follow-up perspective, though, what, given the criticality of these support jobs, what are the financial incentives that are being provided from an economic development perspective to the construction of affordable housing, the real development of affordable housing?
There's very little on the economic development side because we work with employers on that. Now, the community development department within county government, Anthony Jones and his shop, is the programs that deal with assistance to housing. Some of those are, like you can get bonuses, you can actually build more product on the same piece of land if you include affordable housing. And we're gearing as a county toward mixed income housing. We don't want to have projects like occurred back in the 70s where you get everybody in the whole complex is low income. We want people to see that there is a path out of poverty and a path just from a low wage job to a high wage job. And they can see that by living amongst people from all economic groups. So the idea is to encourage the introduction of affordable units within market rate housing. So several programs that work in that area. And primarily that works by making it possible for a builder to make a profit on the property by building more units on that property, because there's always a limit to what you can build. And by building more units, they can get more income, and the pro forma works, they can actually provide more market rate units And there's several programs, and really Anthony would be the expert on that.
that we have here in Pinellas County and the roles of the various, the Housing Authority. And then Commissioner Triolo is going to talk a little bit about the benefits of green building and some things like initiatives like that. So we'll just turn it right over and you guys can.
Okay, thank you very much. How many people in here, excuse me, Mr. Brickfield, I got the floor. How many people in here?
It's my fault, it's my fault.
I can only do that because we go. How many people in here are candidates? Okay, there are people I want to talk to today. I'm going to let Debbie tell you a little bit more about the Housing Authority, but I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart that has to do with affordable housing. We've heard some great speakers here today talk about affordable housing. And as we all know, there's a lot of different variables in affordable housing. It's not just the person that's trying to get in affordable housing. It's the developer, the builder, the realtor, the utilities that maintain it, the zoning departments in the city, permitting. There's a lot of facets that cover it. I wear a couple of dual hats. I chair the Pinellas County Housing Authority, which I am honored to do. We're an agency that was started in 1965. We lend financial assistance to over 3,000 families in Pinellas County. We manage and maintain over 1,600 rental units. We provide $22 million to the economy in rental assistance for landlords and people getting Section 8. We provide about $4 million to the county in revenue for construction jobs and services for what we do. I don't want to talk about the authority. I want to talk about what you as candidates and what you as commissioners, state reps, senators, state attorneys need to know about is one of the things that I find in construction and affordable housing that's a problem. It's the building code. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the building code, but there are some very big problems going on right now that the majority of the people have no idea about. And that is that we, March 15th of this year, we made into effect the 2010 Florida Building Code. So we're already 2 years behind the ball on this. This came from a lot of confusion on how we build homes, i.e. affordable homes. So one of the problems is there's a lot of confusion out there with the contractors, the builders, and the developers who are trying to build affordable homes. Now, we've heard a lot of great conversations today about different things from buying a home, being able to afford it, the statistics of the economy and getting people to work. But what we need to think about is how these homes get built. Because the bottom line is, as you've heard from the other speakers, if we can't build them affordably, it's no good. Because the people just aren't making the money. We can say all we want about the numbers, but I think everybody in here knows a lot of people that are either out of work or they're struggling. So in order to do this, we need to look at some of the realities of it. And one of the realities is the building code. I have dual hats, like I said. I also work for Progress Energy. And my role at Progress Energy is the program manager for the residential programs that offer incentives to homeowners and builders for upgrading energy efficiencies. As I said, the 2010 building code was just implemented this year, 2 years late. In the Florida Building Code, there's a little part of it that's been in there since 2004 that says if you retrofit a home, in other words, if you remodel a home, if the retrofit does not total 30% of the value of the home, you do not have to follow the building code. Well, when they wrote the new building code in 2010 that they just implemented, they forgot that was in there. And they told everybody they had to follow the building code, which was all these new requirements for windows and insulation and the way they build homes. So the problem is we've got a whole group of builders and contractors out there who have no idea what to do. Right now, the Florida Building Commission has put the onus on the Energy Task, or the Energy TAC group, to come up with an answer for this. They have yet to settle it. They have not made a decision on whether when you retrofit a home, if it has to meet that 30% criteria, or do you have to follow the new code, which gives all these recommendations and requirements of what you have to do. Now, we heard somebody here earlier talk about Pinellas County and the density and the state. Duke brought up some great points about construction and the housing market. Actually, in Central Florida, there's a lot of new homes being built. Just tens of thousands of them in the Orlando area. A lot of people don't realize it, but they're going like gangbusters over there. And the reason is because when the economy crashed and all those developers, who somebody mentioned earlier, had all those lots they had hoped to buy, they sold those lots for pennies on the dollars to these big developers who are now building affordable homes with very low profit in them, and they're blowing them out like crazy. The problem is here in Pinellas County, as you heard earlier, we don't have that land. So we are remodeling more than we are building new. We don't have the land to build, so we have to remodel. Barbara's nodding her head, she knows us so well. So the problem is the building code. We have to get under control the way this thing is being run. Right now we've got county people, county inspectors going out telling builders one thing, and we have city builders, or city inspectors in Clearwater and St. Pete telling the contractor a different thing. I've got contractors calling me every day telling me they're not even pulling building permits because they're getting different inspectors and different answers all through the county, through the different municipalities. Big reason this is the problem in the building code. So what I'd like you guys to leave here today with, we've heard a lot of information, but as candidates and as hopefully elected officials, whether you're the state attorney, whether you're a county commissioner, whether you're representing a state senator, we need to get the state a little more under control with the building code. I could sit here and talk all day long about that, and I don't want to do it because it would probably bore you to sleep, and I don't want to do that. But the bottom line is there is just a lot of problems, a lot of controversy, and this is hindering the construction industry from being able to come in and do what we're wanting them to do. We can talk all day long about grants, about NSP money, about funding, but when you've got builders coming into an area like Pinellas County where they're retrofitting homes, they're not building new, and they have no idea how to do it because they're getting conflicting messages from either the municipality, the county, or wherever, it's very hard to get the work done. That is pretty much what I wanted to say. Does anybody have any questions on that? Once again, affordable housing is not just one-dimensional. There's just a multitude of facets to it. So, you know, like I said, I could go on about all of them because I've got some very strong opinions about all of them because I've been in the field for a long time. But the one thing I wanted to talk about was the building code. Because if you don't know right now, the building code for the state of Florida is in turmoil. And a lot of people don't realize it. Something needs to be done because until this gets straightened out and until there's some uniformity with what's going on out there, we're going to continue to have problems. Okay, any questions? All right. Next, I'd like to introduce my favorite executive director, Debbie Johnson.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be real quick. We have a slide presentation. I don't know if you have a copy of it or not, but if you don't, I'm sure one can be made available to you if you'd like one. Because I'm just going to kind of go through it really quickly in about 4 minutes. The title is Why State and Local Governments Have an Important Role in Housing, in addressing the housing needs. And you've heard from Mike earlier why it's important to address the housing needs. And this presentation tells you a little bit about some of the ways that we do it, some of the methods from the state that are used to fund affordable housing. The first of those is the Sadowski Act of 1992. Sadowski Act basically provides SHIP dollars. Home dollars are provided through the state of Florida. Tax credits are the state's major program for developing affordable housing. The Sadowski Act of 1992 basically created a source of revenue for housing from a portion of dock stamps, taxes on the transfer of real estate. That's about 10-cent increase to the dock stamp, tax paid on the transfer of real estate. Those those funds go into the State Housing Trust Fund, and 70% flow into the local government housing trust fund. The Florida Housing administers the bulk of the affordable housing resources available at the state level. going quickly. I'm not gonna read all of this, right? State Housing Incentive Program, that's the SHIP program. Just to give you a little overview of the SHIP program, why it's important. The SHIP program, again, is funded through the Sadowski Act. And the SHIP program is provided as CDBG dollars are to the local governments. And the local governments provide those SHIP dollars to developers, to nonprofit developers, for-profit developers as local match for developing affordable housing. And when developers are applying for state tax credits, that tax credits through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, they have to have the local match. There is a lot of information in this about SHIP dollars that will be used for down payment assistance, purchase assistance, housing rehab and repair, foreclosure, intervention, new construction, disaster recovery. And then we have some examples of recent affordable housing in development in Pinellas County. One of those is Bayside Court. Bayside Court was developed by the Richmond Group of Florida. It's on Clearwater Largo Road in the Community Redevelopment District. Funds that were used came from Pinellas County's Housing Trust Fund, NSP dollars, the Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County, Morgan Chase, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo. That's an example of mixed finance development to make the project work. 59 of the 144 apartments are affordable housing. How many people have seen that? It's a gorgeous community, and it's an example of what we definitely need more of. As Mike is working in his department to bring more business into the community, we need more quality affordable housing for people to live in.
What was that address? Is that okay?
This is actually, I don't have the address there. And if we have a iPad, we can look it up.
It's just south of Ponce de Leon on Clearwater Largo Road on the western side of the road before you get to Rosary. Near
It is.
Alphona.
It's a gorgeous community. And we're not, the Housing Authority is not involved in that community. I want to make that clear. The Housing Authority is not involved in that community. It's just, I was asked to come and just give you some examples. That is a recent example. The lodges at Pinellas Park is another one that we are not involved in. These were both, this was developed by using tax credits from the Florida Housing Finance Agency by Brownstone Development. It's a fabulous community of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes. So it's for large families and 120 apartments. I think I have a bad picture. They're not ours, so we just had to get the best pictures we could get to show you.
How many affordable units are there, Deborah?
I am not sure. I think they are, I know they're all tax credits, so they're all probably 60% and below the median income.
I think it's 100%.
100%. Now I can talk about something I know about. This is Pinellas County Housing Authority's newest project that we're going to break ground on very soon. Construction's, of course, going to begin this year. It will be 153 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. It'll be reserved for seniors 62 and older. For seniors with incomes at or below 60% of the median income. Our mixed finance sources of income are multifamily revenue bonds and 4% tax credits, housing trust funds, SHIP funds, our own unrestricted dollars, the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta's Affordable Housing Program grant, and North Star, of course, and Pinellas County Housing Authority are the developers of this property. This property will be on Almerton Road, just right next door to our office. Next page is a picture of what that will look like. And a little bit about housing authorities, just to give you an overview. I think I just missed my mark, but I still need to tell you this. There are 5 housing authorities in Pinellas County. Pinellas County Housing Authority, as Chairman Triolo said, is the largest of those. Housing authorities provide HUD-assisted housing. The Housing Choice Voucher Program provides housing assistance to the lowest income families. It is the largest of the housing authorities programs, those who have it, and it provides housing assistance to families at or below 50% of the median income. 75% of those that we admit to the program have to be at or below 30% of the median income. And there's a very stringent criteria for documenting and verifying that. Public housing is housing that the housing authorities own. And those properties have units for families with incomes up to 80% of the median income. Most of those originally throughout the nation were created in the 1930s and 40s. Here in Pinellas, we still have some from the 1970s. At our housing authority, we do have a working family preference. We are allowed to create our own local preferences. We also have a preference for veterans and youth aging out of foster care. Housing authorities also were encouraged from the passage of the 1998 Housing Quality and Work Responsibility Act to be entrepreneurial, to start looking at ways to bring non-HUD income in so that we're not relying on HUD for 100% of our income. And with that, nonprofits were developed and subsidized, non-subsidized housing was developed, affordable housing. And by state law, we can provide non-subsidized housing for families and individuals with incomes up to 150% of the median income. And we provided just a couple of examples of that non-subsidized, not the public housing, on the next couple of slides. This is a map that just shows where all of our properties are. But the next page, this is East Lake Club Apartments in Oldsmar. We own this. It is no federal, state, or local subsidies are attached to this. We work with families up to 80% of the median income. There are 240 apartments, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. We do have a set aside internally for 80% or below the median income. Palm Lake Village is in Dunedin, Florida. It's 475 apartments for ages 55 and older. No federal, state, or local subsidies attached. 1 and 2 bedrooms. This is another example. Norton Apartments is subsidized, but this is a special case where Norton was privately owned. The private owner had a long-term subsidy contract with HUD and then allowed the property to suffer in a state of disrepair and allowed the property to go into bankruptcy. We just took it out of bankruptcy and preserved the subsidy and rehabbed it. And that's it. There are a couple more, but we needed to keep it short. If you have any questions on the Sadowski Act, we have a couple of experts that are not me, but I was doing a favor to my good friends here. One is Chris, and one is Jeff in the back there, and they'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Thank you.
I guess what I'm trying to get down to, as far as understanding need versus reality, is what has been estimated to be the essential unit need versus the essential unit availability? And what's the gap?
We have, at the current time, at least 8,000 people waiting on housing subsidies. Our list can be inclusive of families or individuals from other parts of the county, but at least 8,000 people. We opened our waiting list several years ago for just about 2 days, and received over 9,000 applications by name? That's a good question.
It's often hard for people that have been served by our programs to come to meetings like this and share their life experiences or the situations that they're in because they're often working 1 and 2 jobs. But we do have a short video that we'd like to show you where we actually have some of the families who have recently purchased homes and have gone through the program. So we'd like to share that with you now.
In the mid-2000s, real estate boom caused home values to increase significantly. The higher costs made it difficult for many low-income and middle-class households to find affordable housing. That boom subsided, and there are now a large number of foreclosed homes, resulting in home prices in general sinking to their lowest levels in many years.
CDBG funds and home funds, those have been cut consistently over the last several years as a part of the budget cuts that have been happening on the federal side. With those funds being reduced consistently, fewer and fewer programs are available for low-income families, and this is a big concern for us. And so we really like to see these programs being supported and preserved to help low-income families. I'd like to thank you all for coming out. As you can see, affordable housing is an integral part of our economy and is very important if we are to retain employers, retain jobs and so forth, and have places for a portion of our citizens to work. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Legislators, if you're running for office and you haven't picked up one of the packets, there's some sitting in these chairs. Bios on all the speakers can be found out at the front desk. And also, we did video this, and it will be on the HHSEC website. And then we have Jeff Rogo here, who is going to make a quick announcement, and then we'll close.
Very brief, because I want to say thank you to the candidates who took the time today to be with us and to listen to our speakers and learn a little bit more about some of the housing challenges in Pinellas. On September the 19th, we'll turn the tables and we'll listen more to you and some of your concerns, some of your positions on housing issues, some of your thoughts on the challenges that we have. We've got a candidates forum that's coming up on the 19th at the Pinellas Realtor Organization. The Pinellas Realtors, one of the sponsors, along with the group I work with, the Bay Area Apartment Association, and the Pinellas Park Gateway Chamber of Commerce. So I hope to see you on the 19th.
What time?
6:30 in the evening until 8. September 19, a Wednesday.
We have flyers.
Yes, thank you, Denise, we do.
All right, we'll have them out.
Oh,